Mastery requires teamwork no matter what the endeavor is. You can't master something in a vacuum. You've got to learn from other people. You got to learn from books. You got to learn from every different source you can get your hands on. The highlight of my day every day is watching somebody do something that they didn't think they could do. Watching an athlete lift the weight that they didn't think they could lift. Watching them hit a vertical jump that they'd never hit before. That is like the best feeling ever as a coach.
All right, welcome to the Doing the Work podcast. I am excited. This is such a cool experience for me. Zack Phillips is a guy who I really looked up to and really had some great conversation with in the past. And we served together in the National Guard. I actually, he was a Scouts platoon sergeant, went to be a first sergeant, and I got to take the Scouts. And so, Zack, thank you so much for being on the show, man. It's awesome to have you.
Thank you for having me, Ethan. I'm honored to be here. I think it's very, very nice of you to have me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I sought you out because, again, we're friends, but what I see most of you is kind of like what's on social media and stuff. And I just love getting to see what you're doing now. So I think it's going to be a really cool episode to have.
Yeah, thank you. The person who I was 10 years ago is probably not the same as I am now. So I've definitely evolved a lot since we talked last.
I mean, that's true for both of us. Yeah. So this will be kind of a cool chance for you and I just to catch up and see what's been going on.
Absolutely.
So who is Zack Phillips? Let's just start there.
Well, I'm the assistant strength and conditioning coach at St. Edward's University. I'm the strength coach for the women's basketball, baseball, softball, and the distance runners. I live here in Austin, Texas. I'm married. I have a son, and I like weightlifting, and I've just got into golf. I'm super into that right now.
Really? Golf? Yeah. How'd you get into golf, man?
It's just something I've wanted to get into for a long time. It's been my New Year's resolution for about 5 years running. And there was always something where I couldn't get into it. It was just kind of like a hard thing to jump into. And finally, one of the assistant softball coaches here has been super heavy into golf lately. And, I kind of just invited myself to go golf with her, and I went and bought a secondhand set of clubs and a glove and tees and balls and all that stuff, and just been going.
Golf's always been one of those sports that super intimidating to me. I've gone to the driving range. Yeah, I've gone to the driving range and I'm just horrible, know, and I do kind of pride myself on being somebody who's okay, really sucking at something. In fact, I enjoy it. I like the process of learning and growing and learning how to master something. But golf has just been one of those things that I've stayed away from for some reason,
Yeah, I've really just started, but I really like being terrible at it. And because every time I go, I make a little bit of an improvement. But it's just it's almost like weightlifting where you think you've got it and then you don't have it. And just every session or every game is a little bit different than the last, and it doesn't really matter how many times you take that same shot or hit on that same course. You're kind of just going to continue to keep being a little bit bad at it. But I don't know. For me, it's a really enjoyable process. I really like being outside and just hanging, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've always appreciated about you, and areas where you and I have connected is you're one of those people who really is what I'll call a seeker, a lifelong learner. You've demonstrated that in many ways throughout your life, but I think that's one of the things that I really gravitate towards you as a person.
Well, as a huge fan of the movie Point Break, I really appreciate that. And take that as a compliment.
Yeah, it is a compliment. It's because the things that I can probably list 5 things right now that I've witnessed you do: the Highland Games, weightlifting, becoming a strength conditioning coach. These were all reaches for you. These are things that you stepped into almost out of the abyss.
Even CrossFit, that's really kind of how we got to know each other more. Is you inviting me to come and work out at your CrossFit gym, which I really didn't have any experience with other than just seeing a little bit on TV. And, kind of at the time, everybody I knew that had done CrossFit or was into CrossFit was kind of like skinny little dorks. And, kind of like that, that ibolic lieutenant stereotype, they kind of got into that then, and especially 10 years ago or whenever that was. And but you were a very good ambassador of it, I thought, and it
Thanks.
made me like interested in it. So
Yeah, and that's the thing because there's definitely a prototype, right? Like we generally have now studied CrossFit enough to know that there's like a body type and a certain, you're going to be about 5'9", maybe 185 pounds. I mean, there's certainly some exceptions, but
mm,
like you're like what 6'4",
6'2".
6'2", and
Yeah.
like I think at that time you were really putting on the weight. Like you might have
Uh,
been like 265,
yeah,
275.
I was pretty hossed up. I was probably 265 at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think that's just a part of like what I think I really like appreciate about you is the mindset, right? Like you have the ability to check the ego and just like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a go and give it an actual effort. Like
Mhm.
and some people will give lip service, but you don't really do that. Where do you think that comes from? That mindset for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, both my parents wouldn't. They kind of like try new things and do new things, but I wouldn't say as much. They're not probably not as adventurous as I am when it comes to stuff like that. I really don't know. I'll give the credit to my parents, just for lack of anyone else to give it to. Or my parents and my grandmother.
What kinds of things that make you think of them? Like what kinds of things were they doing to kind of help you with that mindset?
Well, my dad's a bit of a Renaissance man himself. He grew up working in a sawmill, did athletics and everything. Ended up going to Cornell University. Uh,
Really?
left there, went to did like got drafted by the Bengals. Did like a was like there for like the summer or whatever. Didn't make the team, but did the practice squad thing, and then from there, from being a football player, he went and became a truck driver.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and and then from there became a fireman, and then just throughout the course of his life, he's always kind of just dabbled in different little things and tried different things, like sailing. He tried sailing for a while. uh he was always pretty heavily into lifting and things like that too. So I don't know. So, and then my mom, kind of a similar type story. So yeah, I guess my parents.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about sport, right? Like, one of the reasons why you're a dad, I'm a dad. One of the reasons why I encourage my kids to play sports is it has nothing to do with the actual what they achieve in the
Mm-hmm.
sport. There's just this. There's so many life lessons that you can learn from. Like again, like what we already talked about. Like how do you learn to master something, or even get just like minimally good at something?
Yeah.
The attitude and the effort and the teamwork required.
Yeah, and I think mastery requires teamwork, whether it's no matter what the endeavor is, right? Like you can't master something in a vacuum. You've got to learn from other people. You got to learn from books. You got to learn from every different source you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everything that, and because I'm a certain, well, I'm actually, I was about to say something, but here at the Sergeant Major's Academy, they try to tell you that nobody has a learning style, that like you just have a preference. And so I was about to say that I'm a very tactile learner, uh, but maybe I'm being indoctrinated somehow. But anyway, what I was really about to say is that I sucked at school. I hate sitting and just like reading a book or whatever. So I like to just roll up my sleeves and jump in there. And
Mhm.
it kind of seems like you're like that too.
Yeah, and then I think the military also kind of puts that into you as well. When I went into the military, it was kind of I went into it just thinking that I was going to take every opportunity that I could. If a chance comes up to go to another country, take it. If a chance comes up to go to a school or go to a course or meet somebody or something like that, I always took it. I always did everything I can to take every opportunity I could.
Yeah, well, even though you and I are friends and we've talked about a lot of things before, I actually don't know much about your active duty time. Like, tell me a little bit about that story. Like, what took you into service, and like, what were you trying to get out of it?
I never really, I didn't grow up as like where I was just like really, really wanted to join the army. Like it was kind of,
Yeah,
it was something that, I always loved like war movies and books and things like that, and playing army and things, but I didn't really think that it was something I was actually going to do. And then I remember like going to a career fair at school, and the army recruiter was there, and this guy named Sergeant Driver, and he was like, I didn't know anything about the military, but you could just tell he was strack, right? Like
Yeah.
he was a recruiter, and now that having been through the military experience and knowing about uniforms and stuff like that, I don't know how he did this, but he was a recruiter, and he had jump boots and a beret. Which, like,
That's
I
funny.
don't think you're not supposed to do that as a recruiter. But I didn't know that then. But I saw that and I was like, damn, that dude rules. And
Yeah.
so I was definitely, I was very struck by just his appearance and the way he carried himself. And he was a super cool guy. And he was a staff sergeant when I met him. And by the time I graduated basic training, went back to talk to him and just kind of say hi, he was already a master sergeant. So he was
Oh,
obviously like really good at his job. So,
yeah.
but yeah, so I just kind of had a relationship with him, just talking to him. He was a cool guy, and it wasn't like a hey, I want to join the army thing. It was just a relationship, and I started doing the paperwork to go into the military. He came over to my house and met my parents and everything, and got to the question about can you kill somebody, and I was like, because I don't know if it still is or not, but that was like a question that the recruiter asked you, like, and have to check off, like, do you have a problem killing somebody?
Yeah.
And
I don't remember that at all.
I think most people probably don't, and they probably just, it's probably one of those things where they just go down the list and just check it off. But like, I got to that question and I was like, damn, I don't know. And you then as in now, like I'd always been kind of, my morals had always been like heavily informed and influenced by Catholicism.
Hmm.
And for whatever your opinion on that is, like Catholicism has a deep respect for life, right? And so that was something that like really hit me, and I was like, I don't know. Let me sleep on it. And I actually didn't go back and talk to him for about several months, probably like a year, maybe close to a year, before I was finally like, well, actually, my dad came to me and was like, whatever moral dilemma you're having, you need to get over it because
Yeah. Get out of here. Yeah.
it's time to go.
Yeah. That's funny.
And so
Um,
I got over it and went in. It was something that I honestly did contemplate on, and I think uh, I don't know. I've never really told anybody that before, but I'd like to use this as a platform to say that because I think that there's a conception amongst people, general population people, that people in the military are just like mindless killers, or
yeah.
will just that we don't put any thought into these things. But I think there's a lot of people where a lot of thought does go into it. And, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, and my story isn't like hugely different than yours. Like I always tell people I didn't join the military because I was like hugely patriotic. I wasn't like not patriotic, but like I really was just looking to get out of where I was at and try to create some better situation for myself. And I was the furthest thing from being like a bloodthirsty killer of any
yeah.
kind. It just like it looked like an opportunity.
And we joined at we were part of a different generation. Back then there wasn't, if you join now, or, if you joined 10 years ago, I think you kind of know what you're getting into. But, at the time that we went in, it was a little bit different. You
Yeah.
know, Worst thing that was
Yeah.
going to happen is, there was like Bosnia and Kosovo. No, just
Mhm.
Bosnia, I think, was going on when I came in. Kosovo hadn't even happened yet.
What year
And
did you join?
bleep this out, 1998.
Oh, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's funny. I joined before you. How old are you?
Don't worry about how old I am.
Yeah, I joined in 95, and so like just like you, like right, like it was kind of like yeah, it was fairly peacetime. Mogadishu had happened like a year
Right.
prior, and there was stuff going on in the world, but it wasn't like GWAT, where
Right.
you were guaranteed you were gonna go.
Yeah.
You know, so you signed up for what? Like I guess what did you sign up
Oh,
for?
I originally went in as a Cav Scout. We went in as a
Okay.
Cav Scout, which was a kind of an unwelcome endeavor. I didn't really enjoy it, and then switched to infantry after my first enlistment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And I know you went to Ranger School at some point. Was that during your active duty time, or did you
Yeah.
go later
I
on?
went to Ranger School. No, I was in the Guard when I went to Ranger School.
Okay.
I was that was 2009, January 2009.
Okay. So you spent about 7 years or something like
Yeah,
that
so
on active duty.
7 years in the regular army. When we came back from Iraq in 2004, yeah, I was stop lost, like where I was supposed to get out while we were there, but they kept me in or whatever. So I stop loss, came back in 2004 and got out and moved back to Portland to go to college. And and then I think there was something where it's like 7. Oh yeah, so 7 years because I think an actual like enlistment's 8 years. And so the recruiter, somebody got a hold of me and was like, "Hey, you need to come join this National Guard group for a year to finish out your full 8."
Uh-huh.
And then so I was like, "Okay, whatever." and,
Fine. Yeah.
and so I did that, and then and so I was with them for just a few months, and then we got orders to go to Afghanistan. And then so we went to Afghanistan, or did all the train up stuff, went to Afghanistan, came back, and then pretty much I was on kind of like a deal where I was like, semester of college, go to conflict zone, semester of college, go to conflict zone. And then like, so I was, that's how like I did I had retired with 20 years of active service, and I really didn't have much of a break at all. I had like just a couple months of actual non-active time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so pretty much just kind of like did that, and came back from Iraq and was like, this is not going to work for me. I need to just like find like an active duty position or whatever. And so I went and was a pre-ranger instructor at Fort Benning.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know that you did some time over there.
Yep.
What
Did that for a couple years, and then I came back to Texas um, to work for the counter drug program.
is that what brought you to Texas?
Yep.
Okay.
I was at Fort Benning, and a friend of mine who I was an instructor with had left, and I just stayed in touch with him, and he was like, "You got to come out to Austin. It's great, whatever." And I didn't know anything about Austin. I knew about Lance Armstrong, that he was here, or he lived here and had a bike shop here, and I knew the Austin City Limits TV show from PBS, and that was
That's
really
funny.
all the Austin trivia that I knew. And so yeah, I moved out here in 2012, and it was still, I didn't know anything about it, didn't really even research it at all before I came out here. And I remember driving up from Houston on 290, and back then, driving through up 290, there was just nothing for a long ways. And I was like, God dang, this is Austin. This is gonna suck. And get through Bastrop, and Bastrop's just like a little town, or not Bastrop, Elgin. Get through Elgin, which was nothing back then. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then I get, you're like 10 miles outside of Austin before the 290 hooks it onto 35. And I see the big billboard for David Comey, the lawyer with
The lawyer that
dreadlocks.
rocks.
Yeah, David Comey, the lawyer that rocks, dreadlock, leather jacket, lawyer guy. And I was like, all right, Austin is probably going to be pretty sick.
Perfect.
I've
Yeah.
been here ever since.
Yeah, because you're a punk rock. I know you're big into punk rock, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that probably drew you right in. Did you? You're still in Austin, so I'm assuming you enjoyed Austin. It was like
I love it here. I love the weather. The people here have all like I've always been impressed by how friendly people are here. I think just people in Texas in general are phenomenal and very friendly, and I love people in Austin. You know, there's I've always liked the way when people say hi to you here and people say like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like I feel like they really mean it. Like they actually
Yeah,
like care how it's going for you. And I still struggle with that because I don't really have that, but I enjoy that from other people. I love the people here, and I love the weather.
I agree. I mean, I got similar story to you. I ended up coming to or moving to Austin for grad school and just fell in love with the people and all the weather and all the other cool things that everybody talks
Yeah.
about Austin for. So um, okay, so then what a point, like, because I've always known you as like a strength and conditioning nerd, right?
Mhm.
Like I've never not known you to be like working on something, like, and the cool thing, and I know we'll probably dive into this, but like one of the things I really appreciated about is that you would try some pretty vastly different things. Like at one point you're like, I want to see how big I can get. And then you were like, I want to see how much I can slim down and I want to see if I can get good at this sport or this type, type of thing. So where did all that start?
So lifting for me, I got bit by the iron bug pretty early. You know, I'd always grown up watching my dad lift, and which I was something I always wanted to do, but he wouldn't let me lift until I was like 13.
Uh-huh.
And then I remember the first time I went to the gym with my dad, he made me do dumbbell suitcase lunges for like infinity sets.
Oh no. Oh no. Was he just trying to teach you a lesson or what?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I just remember like, you know how my legs felt. Like,
Oh, there's no worse sore than like doing too many lunges.
yeah. And I was doing them with dumbbells and, I'd never worked out before. But then my school, we had a weight room under the bleachers of the football stadium. And, I we started lifting in there for PE class in 10th grade. And it was a big, like you said, I was a punk rock guy. I was kind of like not a cool kid, like, dog collar and spike bracelets and just like,
Oh, you went all
yeah.
out. Damn.
And so like I was, I wasn't super cool with the other kids. And but when we got in the weight room, like I was actually like throwing down and like doing really well, and I could see myself making changes and stuff. And so like I really took to it really quick. And I loved that it didn't really matter like what you were into outside or who you were or like who you were friends with. Like when you come in the weight room, like all that matters is like how hard you're working, are you doing your best? Like really that's
Yeah.
it. And I made friends in there that I wouldn't have made elsewhere, just guys that I probably wouldn't have talked to if I had not been lifting. I was part of like, you kind of like get your little weight room clique, and weren't really a clique that would have clicked up anywhere else, but in the weight room we all hung together, and they were all strong guys. I was definitely the weakest one of the group, but they let me hang with them. And yeah, I just really really liked that. But my actual thirst for learning about it, because that was what I would say spent a good 10 years of just results by coincidence, right? Which most young kids do. Like you go in the weight room, you thrash yourself, or you do what your buddy's doing, and you get a little bit bigger, you get a little bit stronger. You have no idea why, um, and then you don't follow any kind of routine, you don't follow any program, you don't write anything down. That was me from the age of probably 14 or 15 until probably 25. So, but those coincidentally, I kept getting bigger and faster and stronger, which was great.
Yeah.
But um, I started getting into, just like everybody else, reading especially on deployment, reading, Muscular Development magazine. I really loved Johnny Jackson's articles in Muscular Development and Branch Warren, and just kind of reading about like all those like Metroflex guys. But I knew I was never going to look like them. Like I didn't, I was like, you read those magazines, especially as a young impressionable kid, you're like, I just want to look like this dude. Why do I not look like that? What is going on?
Yeah.
But Johnny Jackson was a power lifter, and he wrote about powerlifting. So I kind of got into the idea of like, oh, I can just do this to lift a lot of weight and not really worry so much about how I look, because
Yeah.
that's kind of like where I started to learn like, oh, there's like a genetic factor at play and a pharmaceutical factor at play. And I was just like, okay, like I can just do this for fun and then lift heavy because it's fun. And so got into Johnny Jackson's articles in that magazine, and then got into, it was a while before I actually started reading it, but I started like getting interested in like Louis Simmons and West Side Barbell and stuff, because they would mention them in that magazine. And so, but I didn't really follow that like program. And then the first actual program where I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow this program and do it and see how it goes, was the Dante Trudell Dog Crap program. Have you ever heard of that or done that?
No.
So basically, the the Dog Crap program is it's basically like a high intensity training, like Dorian Yates kind of style deal, where you have 3 compound exercises per session. You say you're going to do back squat. You go up to like a 80% back squat. Say it's 315, and you do 10 reps. You just go for max reps on one set, and then you take like 2 days off, and then kind of do like bench press, 80% max reps. Next week when you come back, you got to hit 11 reps on the back squat. You got to hit 12 reps on. You have to go up in reps every week. And
Yeah.
you got to stay at a very, very high intensity. Brother, like I got so big. I was on deployment when I did it. So I was doing the Dante Trudell Dog Crap program and eating at a KBR chow hall 4 times a day. So
Yeah. You packed it on.
yeah, so I packed on a big weight. I was huge. And then I went, I remember I was like, we had a PT test coming up. So I was like, okay, I gotta go for a run. And went outside and went for a run, and got shin splints.
Had 2 heart attacks
could
and
barely could barely breathe. That was like that experience kind of taught me 2 lessons, right? Like one, it taught me like if you stick with the program and do it, like you can actually have directed results. And 2, taught me the specificity principle of like if you're just training on this and you're completely neglecting this, then this is where you're going to get good, and they're going to have this reversibility over here where this is all going to go away. So that was like a big wake up call for me. And from there, I pretty much was like, okay, like that was like an experiment. Not went right in one way, went wrong in another way, but like from here, like I'm gonna just tinker around with this. I've really been tinkering around with it ever since.
yeah. I mean, I think that's just how it is. Like I think we're all always tinkering and like you're learning something new, trying to apply a different concept or different theory. And yeah, it's the ultimate lab.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I've always loved about it, right? Like I'm going to learn this new concept and I'm going to try and implement it out here in the field and see and study it, collect the data and just kind of see what comes out of it.
yeah. This was the first time that I actually collected data, and like because you have to for that program, you've got to go up in reps every week. So I was tracking my reps, and yeah, like I was like couldn't buckle the top button on my uniform pants.
That's
I
awesome.
was cheeked up.
Deployments were always great for that though, because you know that you were going to have the time. You for the most part, you knew you were going to be able to get in the gym. So I
Yeah,
always like looked forward to that.
yeah. This was if you ever want to, if any of the folks back home want to put on some big Dorian Yates size, go look up the Dante Trudell Dog Crap program. Highly
Why do
recommend.
you call it dog crap?
I think that was like his message board handle or something like that, where he had originally posted the program. And
Okay.
so I think that's like just what it became called.
It's either a genius name or a horrible name. I'm
I
not
honestly
sure.
think it's a horrible name. That's why I throw in his name,
Yeah.
because it's a great program. The article itself, I want to say it was like 20 pages long. Um, I still have it somewhere. Like it was a good program, but like you really have to commit to it, because you got to commit to all that eating, commit to that rest, because you're doing a high intensity program like that. You got to rest intensely too.
Well, yeah, and like the mental piece, that sounds a lot like the biggest and strongest I ever got was on the I've always just called it the 20 rep program.
Mm.
But yeah, I think you started at like 63% or something. Like it was like 60-ish%. And you did, and it was same thing. There was it was compound lifts, 3 compound lifts, and there was some accessory work associated with it. But you did 20 reps. The next time you did that a session of that lift, you added 5 pounds total,
Oh,
and then you had to do 20 reps again. And so over a 6 week cycle, but you were essentially doing 20 reps at like almost your like old like 85% or like almost 90%. Like you just packed on size and strength.
yeah.
And if you survived it, and if I think I tried it the first time I did it, made it all the way through and just got huge and strong. So of course, I took a rest cycle or did something else for a while and always wanted to come back, but I think I got hurt every time I tried it again.
I'm somewhat familiar with that 1x20 program, and I've never run it just because for that reason is like, I look at it, what every rep I have an athlete do is kind of like, that's an opportunity where Murphy could strike, right? And
Yep.
so having them do 20 in a row, like, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like they have a hard enough time holding good form for 4 reps. So
I think with a youth athlete, definitely not. When I would say this is obviously for someone who's like intermediate
yeah.
or above. The other part, but the thing I loved about it, and you probably have met a lot of people who do 75 hard or something like that. It's
Mhm.
really the mental piece of it. I mean, just like the mind fuck of knowing that the last time I did this, I I collapsed when I finished the set, and then I've got to add 5 pounds, and now I got to do it again. That
Yeah.
I loved the mental game of it. You know,
Yeah. Maybe I'll try it one of these days. I don't know.
I really,
So it's
like I
three
said,
three compound lifts per session or just one?
no, 1 compound lift. So you're gonna pick 3 compound lifts, and that'll be part of your training week. Like let's just say squat, bench, and deadlift, just
Okay.
to keep it simple. And during that training week, you're gonna do just one of those per session, and then there'll be some accessory work also.
Right. Okay.
So
How long did you run that for?
6 weeks. I want to say it was like 6 to 8 weeks. Um, so nothing crazy, but like I also uh, did the GOMAD gallon of
Oh yeah.
milk a day along with that,
Hell
just
yeah.
every single day. So so it like I said, it worked, but it might have just also been the results that you get as being somewhat of a novice, like
Oh
those
yeah.
beginner gains. You know.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, so I guess we dove right into the strength conditioning stuff. So like you tinkered around with your, like, I guess like you went from just being like, hey, I'm a hobbyist, I'm doing this on myself as my own kind of like lab rat, and
Hmm.
you eventually evolved into training other people and getting into strength conditioning as a professional. It's like what talk to me about the progression.
Well, I think that just came from the military. A few different factors in the military. One, like I said, I always took every opportunity that was put in front of me, and then usually I was pretty successful at those opportunities. So like tried to go to as many schools as I could, and like was always good on the PT test. And as in the military, they highly back in the day, anyways, they running fast was highly valued, or running fast over the course of 2 miles was highly valued. So I was so I don't want to say that's running fast, but running fast for 2 miles was a valuable skill. And so like just I was good at all those things. And so people would come and ask me, how do I get ready for this PT test?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get ready for, XYZ school? Um, for a while, this was when I was on active duty. My first sergeant put me in charge of like the remedial PT program, which if any of those people are listening or watching, I am so sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I
so
knew
sorry.
it.
I didn't know what I was
had
doing.
I had the same role, and I was like, I am mortified by what I had these people doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so people would ask me, how to do whatever, and I would just tell them either what I did or what I thought would work. again, like I'm sure was awful, not based on anything, just kind of based on assumptions that I had made or things that I had tried for myself that worked. But eventually, like I took it as this is my responsibility to actually learn about these things.
Yeah.
And because I knew it was from running programs like that, the dog crap and whatever, I knew it was something that could be learned about. I learned that there was, about the programming principles and things like that, and that I got to figure this out because people, as a person in this community that has had some success, people are going to ask me. And if I tell them, I can either not tell them anything, which I'm not going to do because that's just the wrong answer. Uh, I could tell them the wrong thing, again, wrong answer, or I could learn about it and tell them the right thing. And one thing, I was having this conversation earlier today with another coach who's also in the military. That, like, we have a responsibility to pass this stuff on. Like if
Yeah.
I know how to do something and you don't, I have a responsibility to teach you. At least as a strength coach or as in the military, like if you know how to run the saw really well, guess what? You're teaching everybody how to use the saw.
Right.
If you just learned how to use the new radio, even though you just learned how to use it today, you got to teach everybody else how to use it. And so I just had that mentality, and I still have that mentality of, like, even though I just learned how to swing a golf club, if we go golfing together, I'm going to show you the two things that I know about swinging a golf club. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it just became just by way of position and by way of who I was and what I felt I had a obligation to do. Just kind of evolved from that.
Yeah. So very similar experience, same as me. But I remembered really early on, like just really like loving training other people. Like I got my first um, personal trainer certificate like in '98 or something like that. It was the ACE one, and the Army paid for it, and
Nice.
same deal, but it was because I knew, like, hey, this is like I knew real early. Like I thought maybe I wasn't going to do it as a career, but I was at least going to do it as a hobby. Like I loved helping people develop capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that or did you just kind of you got good at it, so you kind of just kept it going?
It was something. It's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy being. I enjoy the relationships that you build with that as the background. I love every day. The highlight of my day every day is watching somebody do something that they didn't think they could do. Right, watching an athlete lift a weight that they didn't think they could lift, watching them, hit a vertical jump that they'd never hit before. That is like the best feeling ever as a coach. So if I get to do that every day, like that's really what keeps me coming in every day is that. And then, the success that people go on to just, in the military, I loved when guys would get out and they would go get good jobs or they would go make an impact in their community or go on to be successful outside of the military. And I get the same thing working with student athletes, all these kids sooner or later, they're going to stop playing sports. Sooner or later, they're going to graduate college and then they're going to go make an impact in their community. And I love having a small little role to play in that. And I know that one of these days, one of these kids is going to be telling a story that starts with back in college, my strength coach used to.
Yeah.
And it could either be a good story or a bad story. And I want it to be a good story.
Yeah, I mean, I also like working with young people is like an area that I really enjoy. Like even like high school athletes have been is an area that I've kind of like gravitated towards. Did you end up there because that's kind of where if you want to be a strength conditioning coach, that's kind of like the show, or did you like really want to be in that
I
arena?
originally wanted to work with military because I wanted to give
Yeah,
back to the military. What I
yeah,
found very quickly with working with the military, and this is before H2F was a thing, what I found quickly working with the military was very frustrating to work with them because it's hard to get a typical military guy, or at least like a guy that's in the infantry, to lock in and follow a program A to Z. Because there's a lot of, you got to run assessments. You need to have kind of like a if you actually want to periodize a program properly, just say run like a year long periodized program for somebody, it takes a lot of patience and it takes commitment, and it's hard to get that from, or I found it hard to get that from that population, just because they have a lot of other things pulling them in different directions. And so I was frustrated with that, just working with them kind of privately. I then thought I wanted to maybe work with high school kids. I never worked in a high school, but the interactions that I've had with them on the private side, like small group is fine. I can kind of tell just from how they are, how I've gotten to know them in small groups, that I would not want to work with a big group.
Yeah.
It's just finding the right chemistry balance, I think. And I can tell that my chemistry and their chemistry it wouldn't work. And,
Yeah.
But the collegiate athletes, I really, really enjoy, because, again, it's like kind of the same as the military demographic. They're all lifting weights for them is like, it's something that for them, it's mostly something that they have to do, not something that they necessarily want to do. But I can make it enjoyable for them. I can make it like a part of their day that they get something out of. They can accomplish something, and so, yeah, I just feel like this is the best place for me to make an impact.
Yeah, I want to dive into the college scene, but I want to go back to the tactical athlete thing for a second,
Sure.
because I think the challenges of training tactical athletes is also what I enjoy also, because, and I know you're probably gonna, well, I don't know if you're gonna agree with this. For me, my experience has also been the what a tactical athlete is a very different kind of athlete. Like, they really have to be good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have to be strong. They have to have great endurance. They have to be athletic. They've got to be able to sprint. They've got to be able to carry a body. I mean, there's just a lot of shit that they've got to be able to do, which is exciting to me. Like, how, it's the Rubik's cube of how do you actually, like, if you know strength conditioning, if you know periodization, like, how do you actually create cycles that like develop someone to be completely well-rounded? And I'm kind of just, I want to throw that topic out there. Like, what do you think it takes to like create the ultimate?
I think that it takes a very, very wide base of just general strength and conditioning, and not overly specializing in any one particular area, and just making that base as wide as you can. Having some weighted movements, having some body weight movements, power movements, sprinting. You got to have some distance running. You got to have some loaded carries. Got to have some loaded walking. With a rucksack on. That's all well and good, and you got to build that real wide. And really, like, if I was just training a general population person, I would say we got to do all of these things. My frustration with the military comes where, I don't want to bash the military guys, but like, becomes a thing of where they kind of get ADD, and they're like, I really want to like max out on this lift. I want to go to, hit a heavy back squat, or I want to, I was training for sapper school, but now I want to go run an ultra marathon. Like, well,
Yeah.
and these are real conversations that I've had.
Yeah.
And so that's very frustrating to me. And it's hard to go from your big GPP base to specializing in something over here, and then now you got to shift it all the way over here to that. Having that big wide base makes it easy to go, okay, we've been training for a year. We've been squatting, benching, deadlifting, power cleaning, throwing stuff, walking with stuff. Okay, now you've got this event coming up. Let's specialize in the things that are going to be tested in that event for the next 6 weeks. And that's a pretty easy transition to make. But going from starting to train over here to shift into something over here, or like, hey, we've been working on this base, but we're going to the NTC for a month. Base is coming way back down, right? And then you got to start all the way back over. Like, you can't start building the base of the pyramid, go to NTC for a month, and then pick back up here, right? Like, you got to start all the way back at the bottom. And I find that that's a hard group to communicate that message to.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a big part of it is their kind of receptiveness to, why there's a lot of injuries in the military, non-combat related injuries, is because of that mindset, right? Like they're always getting pulled out of the physical readiness fight, but they don't ever want to take a step back to 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 right size their training. They want to just keep somehow progressing without actually doing the work,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge.
Yeah. And it's hard to get them to lift weight that's light. And, or, like it feels light, they want to be sore. They want to be
Yeah.
gassed. They want the burn. And, that's not necessarily productive all the time, when, if you know that the rest period is going to be limited, then you don't want to be beating the crap out of somebody. You could, because like, hey, this guy's going to the field. I can't wail on him because he's not going to be able to recover from it. Like I got to just give him just enough to stimulate a little bit of growth, and then and let him grow from it, and then come back and stimulate a little bit more. But I don't know, they're kind of masochistic.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That was always my challenge, was like, more is better, trying to reel everybody in, and I found my little ways to do that without like really like crushing their central nervous system, or I feel like I found. So here was the other problem I had. When I think the best programming I ever put together for tactical athletes, where I really feel like, I mean, like this is my best work. This is art that I put out there. They
If you
just
go
didn't
look at it
like
now,
it.
you're gonna hate it though.
Probably. Actually, I did look it up not that long ago, and I still looked at it and be like, man, this is pretty solid. Like, I feel like this would create a pretty well-rounded athlete.
That's
They
good.
just hated it.
Yeah.
They just didn't enjoy it. And that was the other part. You can't, it's hard to get someone to buy into a really long process when they just don't enjoy it, you
Yeah.
know?
It's long. It's, with the baseball team here, when we came back off of summer break, we spent 6 weeks of just doing nothing but, real basic light squats, tempo squats, everything kind of like timed on a whistle, like just kind of trying to rebuild the capacity to actually be able to train and be able to put their body through the stress of baseball practice and running and lifting and all this stuff. Like, you got 60 guys just coming in. You don't know what they've been doing all summer long. Like you gotta put them in the crock pot and take it real slow.
Yeah.
And people don't have the patience for that.
Yeah. I mean, in college, though, I think the benefit that you have, and you would think this would be true in the military, but it's not, is like they don't actually have to do your program. I mean, there's lots of stuff you can do in the military and kind of still meet the standard, right?
Right.
And very rarely is somebody saying you have to do this.
Right.
But I think I mean, maybe I've never been a collegiate strength conditioning coach. So do they have to, I mean, they have to show up and just do your
Oh yeah.
program, right? Like they don't have a
Yeah.
choice.
No. They have to do everything what I put out for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward to that, because this is like really, because I've never done it. I've never been a collegiate strength conditioning coach. I read it in a book. I've been to some seminars and stuff like that, but like I'm not experienced in it. So I really want to know, like, okay, what's the difference? Like, what do you nerd out on? Like, what's your process? Like, I just like really want to dive into all that.
I have basically, for baseball and softball, it's pretty cut and dry because they show up in the fall and they don't have their actual season until February. So I can really like run like a pretty solid like block periodization type program for them, where they come in the end of August, and we'd go through, just return to training, um, then go through a work capacity phase, go through an accumulation phase, intensification phase, and then a max power phase, like pretty much right as they're going into season, like they should be kind of peaking. And then I want to be able to just keep them getting, just during season, just keep them getting like incrementally stronger all through the season, so that they kind of hit a second strength, good strength peak, uh, for postseason. So with baseball and softball, it's relatively easy to kind of plan that out. Um, as far as like sessions and things like that go, um, I'm always I'd look at, you look at the demands of the sport, you look at the athletes, and you also have to look at just individually where they are, where are they showing up. Like, the baseball team showed up pretty good this year. Some of the other teams were a little bit behind. You could tell they didn't train over the summer.
Yeah.
So got to be real careful with them because, I can't thrash a team because they should have been working out over the summer, right? Like I've got to meet them where they are. I've got to make them better. And so that sometimes is a slow process.
How much of as a strength conditioning coach, you're not like their sport coach. How much of a role do you play in even their their mindset, or like how much do you get to kind of like do they just basically show up to the training room, do their thing, and head out, or like how much exposure and like influence do you get with them?
I do my best to influence their mindset. Just from the way we train, the way that I push them through a session, talking to them before the session, talking to them as a group after the session. I try to, I do my best to influence them positively and get them wanting to be, working for the team. And I think really with there's really all the athletes here are fantastic. They're all pretty locked in when it comes to that.
Mm.
Like, so I'm reinforcing what they already are, but yeah, I try to give them my little pep talks at the end of the session.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I would think. I think that would be some of the fun part for me. I'm like imagining in my head like what I think the role is like, having never done it. But I think that would be kind of the fun part. Like for example, you said what keyed me in on that is like, hey, you guys came back from summer, like I could tell you didn't do your homework over the summer. Like, do I have like what's my level of like mentorship there? Like, what's my level of leadership there?
I rip into them about it because they're putting the team at risk. They're putting their health at risk.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, what they do, I get them for 3 months, and then we're about to go on break. They're going to be out of the weight room, or at least out of my supervision, for 7 weeks, and then come back and we have 3 weeks, and then we go into season.
right.
So that 7 weeks is going to make or break the season. And so, I've all fall long, I was really harping on them like, hey, when we're putting in this work now, but don't piss it up a rope when we get into Christmas break. You've got to keep working. You've got to keep working. And for my part, what I did is, the program that I wrote them was very, very simple. In my opinion, it's a fun program to run. I don't know if they're going to think it's fun, but you
Yeah,
know, they should be able to go and knock out each session in 30 to 45 minutes. It's super basic, hit a couple cleans, hit a couple squats, some military press, some basic accessories, and that's it. And then
yeah.
a little run program that's relatively simple. So if they're doing that program, they should show back up, and we shouldn't have any issues. But if they're not doing it, like I said, it's gonna really put the season at risk. And so I've been harping on them on that for a long time, and hopefully the message got through. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of, I guess that's the trial and error. It's like how do you, because not that this is exactly the same, but you will be able to relate to this. Like being in the National Guard, you get them for a drill weekend or whatever, but they're on their own at home doing their own thing like all the rest of the month, and it's like how do you help somebody? How do you create something for their physical readiness that they will go do on their own? And how do you create a system of accountability? And how do I guess, and then what do you do when they come back? Because again, having done everything wrong for a long time, my methodology was that that Schindler is going to crush your balls when you come to drill. Like we are going to
Mhm.
do some really hard PT, which now, and again, this too, because it's like I'm probably going to get you hurt.
Yeah,
Is probably by doing
it
that.
happens every
But
year too. Happens every year.
yeah, but my method, my thinking behind it was that if I'm going to crush you when you come to drill, you are maybe going to be more likely to stay on top of your program when you're not here. But
Yeah,
that wasn't the case.
yeah. The system of accountability has evolved a little bit since then. But we have, I printed out their program for them. I really tried to individualize it as much as possible so they know exactly what weights they should be hitting on what days. I've been sitting down with them, being like, look, like, how many days a week are you going to be able to train? Where are you? What gym are you training at? Oh, there's no gym in my hometown. Oh, really? What's your hometown? Google their hometown. Okay, here's a gym right here. Call them up. Hey, I got an athlete that's coming home for Christmas break. How much is it going to cost for him to train there? Just really kind of eliminating
Yeah.
any barriers or any excuses. We also have an app that they use on their phone. So they either have a
I was
paper
just going to
copy.
ask that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called, the app we use is called Coach Me Plus. It's like Train Heroic or True Coach or any of the other ones, but
Yeah.
it's pretty good. But they've got that on their phones. They can mark the workouts complete. I'll send out some text reminders and stuff over the course of the break, and remind them like, hey, you got any issues with the workout? Give me a call, give me a text, whatever. Try to keep the gym open for them as much as possible. And keep those hours pretty regular, open gym from, 8 to 12 every day or whatever, just to keep the place available to them. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they're getting the work in.
Does the app you have like have a dashboard for you so you can kind of see all the athletes kind of like in one spot?
Yeah, it does. And that's what I'm going to use when we come back to kind of get a good idea of where to start when we come back. Cause where we start is going to depend on what they do over the break. Ideally I would be, really ramping the program up, but if they haven't done the work, I'm going to have to rewind it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Think of 7 weeks, like how much the principle of reversibility, right? Like how much is that program going to reverse itself over the course of 7 weeks? Pretty far.
Yeah. Well, and each individual is different, like, it's I'm sure obviously when you're having to manage a whole team, it's like having to figure out who's who's their systems, like how are they working.
Yeah. And you get, when you want to break your foot off in them, you're putting their health at risk, you're putting your career at risk, your reputation as a coach, like you're really not doing them any good. And it
Yeah.
happens every fall, happens every winter. I usually post something about it on my Instagram of some dumbass coach that, sends a bunch of players to the hospital or kills a kid or whatever. You can set your watch to it. It happens every year. And I'm not going to be that guy.
So are there things that you feel like you have a vastly different approach to, or something that you're I don't know, are you nerding out on anything lately, or?
Something that I kind of took from just Mike Boyle, like reading a lot of Mike Boyle stuff.
I love Mike Boyle. Yeah.
He's big on taking things out, just kind of like Mike Boyle and Pavel is another big influence where like they really have tried to like minimalize things as much as possible. And so I'm always, I always like to like try new things and add a new thing. And like, we got to address this weak area and this over here. But while I'm looking for areas to address and looking for cool new exercises to try, I'm also looking for things to pull out and try to keep things as streamlined and smooth and just basic as possible. So that's really, yeah, just kind of like trying to make training where every rep is important and every exercise is important, and and not have any redundancy. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No fluff, no redundancy.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm really into. I don't know how good of a job I'm doing at it, but it's something that I like doing.
Yeah. I've always thought that, right? Like a lot of people, I think it's a classic, like beginner, rookie, coach perspective is like, let me pack this training
Mm-hmm.
session with as many sexy things that I can put in here at once. I think that's like just a classic mistake. But my approach has always been like minimum viable product. Like, why would I have you do more than absolutely necessary just to get this job done, you know? Um, and again, but I think again, the challenge from the athlete perspective is whatever they're seeing in the social media, whatever they heard from somebody else, and their own personal perspective of like what's effective or what they think they need. And
Yeah,
that's always a fight.
absolutely. Yeah, and in the baseball world, which I'm heavily involved in, there's a lot of a lot of cool things out there that they all want to try, and a lot of, on the private side, people can do stuff like that, right? If it's just a one-on-one session, you can do all kinds of cool, fun stuff, especially if it's a highly gifted athlete, right? And but I can't. It's hard to implement things like that with a group of 60 people, and it may not be. It may be the right exercise at the right time for one individual, but it may not be applicable to the whole team, right? So
Yeah.
I got to drop the biggest bomb that I can, center mass of the whole team. I can't like go in there with the scalpel. I gotta, um, you know, try to make as big of an impact as possible. So that's something to contend with. But I think that they also appreciate the simplicity. I think they appreciate my respect for their time and the effort that they do put in. And I think that they like they like hitting big weights. They like hitting big weights, and they like doing things that are hard and doing things that they couldn't do before. So I think they, as much as they would like to be, catching light up sticks on a balance ball or whatever, like they like deadlifting too.
Yeah. What about tech? Is there any kind of tech that you have used or are using that you're pretty excited about?
So we're very lucky in that we have force plates.
Nice.
That gives us a really good insight into any kind of imbalances or um, weakness. Kind of that does give us a good way to kind of go in and fine tune things a little bit in the program. So we're lucky to have that. I try to keep things as super basic, so I use the jump mat. I use that all the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Always using that thing. That's just a good indicator. That's kind of like a good check engine light. If you can't run the force plate, um, you know, a just jump mat. I think they're like $600, and you can run the whole team through it pretty quickly. And if they can't get within 90% of their best jump, probably not going to be a PR day for them. You probably want to ask them like, hey, how well did you sleep last night, or did you eat breakfast today, or whatever. So I really like that just jump mat for that. Force plate's obviously going to get you a lot. That force plate's going to give you that get you right on target, but the just jump mat,
Right.
have that is really good. We have lasers; those are good, but we just have the one set of lasers, so I can't use those that often with my teams because it's
What's the laser? What is
like
that?
a laser timing system for
Oh, got it. Yeah.
things like
Hmm.
that, which I think is crucial. I just need more of them. I need more of them, and I need more help actually, like writing things down and stuff with it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to sprinting, really like you got to track sprint times. Um, Otherwise, like I don't have the eye to tell if somebody is a tenth of a second slower today.
Yeah.
So sprint times need to be tracked. It's kind of hard to do without the lasers.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and then we have the VBT system we use is called. Oh man, I always forget the name of it. We have a VBT system. They're all good. I don't know. I don't remember the name of it though.
What's VBT?
Velocity based training. So it's like
Okay.
a little
Cable
device.
system.
It's not a cable, but it's like a little device that hooks on the barbell, and we have like an iPad
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that tracks
I
the
saw
bar.
those at UT.
Yeah.
UT had those.
Yes.
Um, yeah, is there like some tech that you got your eye on that you wish you had, or something that like you've seen at a conference or something?
Uh, Not really. Today I was just looking at. I really want to get some like 2-inch barbells, some big thick barbells, but
Yeah,
that's not really tech at all. That's kind of the other direction.
that's
But
the wrong. Yeah, that's the. I mean, but in some ways, like yeah, going back to the old school, right? Like looking at like what some of the bodybuilders and like power lifters were doing like in the early 1900s or something is maybe
yeah.
what some of these people need.
Well, I'm a big fan. So you ask about like things I like to tinker with. In addition with just kind of making things simple, I like finding little ways to put a governor on exercises. So
Mm,
like instead of just a barbell deadlift, make it like a fat grip barbell deadlift, or some type of, or like instead of a barbell squat, make it like a Zercher squat or like
Yeah.
a Zercher squat off pins or something like that. Like something where the athlete is frustrated because they know they could do more weight,
Uh-huh.
but we've got that, we're kind of reducing the mechanical stress, but they're still getting the neurological stress of hitting like a very heavy weight, right?
Yeah.
So they're still sending that signal to their body to like, hey, I need to grow, I need to get stronger to overcome this stress. But the stress, the actual like structural stress, is reduced a little bit because of the governor that's on the exercise.
Yeah, and so is your reasoning behind that is kind of like a bit of a safety, like so they're not getting hurt, or is
Yeah,
it more
safety,
some?
safety, safety, and then yeah, kind of just protecting them from themselves. Because if you tell them we're going to do a max back squat or a max deadlift, like you never know what you're going to see, right?
Yeah,
Or you do know what you're going to see, and it's probably not going to be pretty. You see it all the time.
yeah,
And so yeah, just kind of figuring out a way to do those things to give them that maximum stress, but make it a little bit safer. Make it a little bit safer,
yeah.
and make them just challenge them mentally a little bit as well.
That's what I was about to say. Adding layers of complexity, probably there's probably some like side benefits that aren't going to necessarily show up on the spreadsheet in terms of their lifts,
Hmm.
but maybe in terms of like how they play the sport or things like that.
Yeah, I mean neurologically, like a max effort lift is a max effort lift, right?
Right,
So yeah, I don't think that your brain knows the difference between a 405-pound back squat or a 315-pound Zercher squat, right? It just knows that
right.
it's having to do something as hard as possible and send that signal to the muscles to fire all the muscles at once. So yeah, but you're reducing that mechanical stress a little bit.
Yeah, I think that I've always thought that that was one of the benefits to the Olympic lifts and like why they've been fairly successful in, strength conditioning at the collegiate level, like, cause you can't, obviously you can't power clean as much as you can deadlift,
Right.
but it was still hard as hell to get that barbell all the way up into that front rack.
Yeah, I think that the Olympic lifts, I think they're great for just the physical stress of, as far as like, you know the catecholamines that are released when you have to drop underneath a heavy barbell and catch it on your shoulders. That's almost the same as getting like hit on the football
Yeah,
field, right?
right.
So and then those are stresses that are hard to replicate in the weight room. You can't really replicate that with a medicine ball throw or a jump, you know. And I would say that just anecdotally, the Olympic lifts, as an older guy, I feel like having to use my muscles as fast as possible is really helping me maintain muscle mass as I go into middle ages.
Yeah.
So, and it's
And
it's
then
a lot less
obviously,
stressful than doing powerlifting. It's been a lot, powerlifting, which I enjoyed doing for a long time. Eventually, like it becomes really, really hard, especially
yeah,
if there's things you can do to yourself to make it a little bit more enjoyable, I guess, or make yourself adapt to it a little bit better, especially as you get older. I'm not doing those things. I'm just eating steaks and drinking milk. So um, it became pretty painful for me.
yeah,
So and time consuming. The Olympic lifts, I'm bad at them enough that it just takes a little bit to send that signal to me to continue to move fast and get stronger and grow. And I enjoy just the learning process of them. And doesn't take me as long to get through a workout doing that. And I feel like I'm maintaining the muscle that I had from all those years of powerlifting and stuff like that, just from having to use it so fast on the Olympic lifts.
yeah. The velocity of it. The what are you doing for your training these days? What do you do to train yourself?
During the semester, I pretty much just do the Olympic lifting. I've been training with David up at Texas Barbell.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, he's a super awesome guy,
he
good
he
coach.
he taught my USAW seminar.
Yeah, yeah, it's mine as well. So yeah, I really enjoy training there. I like that environment a lot. As somebody who does this for other people all day long, I like just going someplace and just being like, just tell me what to do.
Yes. Yeah,
Just tell
same.
me what to do. I'm not
Yeah.
thinking about it. At no point am I ever like, why is he having me do this? I don't care. Just he can tell me to do whatever. I'm just gonna go up there and do it, knock it out, and dip. So yeah, so that's the main thing that I'm doing for training in season, just because I'm so busy. Out of season, I'll be doing that, and then also probably getting into the weight room, just doing some, just some basic strength work. Just probably a lot of single leg squats and pull
Mm.
ups, and probably just some, just the basic squat, lunge, hinge type stuff in the weight room. Nothing crazy though.
How do you do your single leg stuff? Like, what are you talking about with, like,
Probably just like split squats. Do a lot of split
yeah,
squats. Yeah, and I haven't been doing them lately just because I've just been doing the Olympic stuff, and I don't think there's a huge carryover from split squats to Olympic lifting. There, maybe if you're really good at Olympic lifting, but for my skill level, I don't think there's any carryover.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's such a bilateral. I mean, Olympic weightlifting is bilateral. I mean, there's really, unless you, I mean, that's the jerk is the
right.
one thing that's going to be a little more unilateral. But I mean, obviously, there's benefit to doing accessory work and unilateral
Yeah,
stuff
it's
for
not
sure.
going to hurt you, but I'm just saying, like, it as far as cutting something out, like, it's also not going to hurt you to cut it out.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, what did you want to talk about something that we didn't talk about?
Not really. I mean, I could sit and
Yeah.
talk about training forever and swap training stories and stuff all night long. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'm the same. But yeah, man, I just really appreciate again like what you're doing, how you do it, your mindset, and I knew that this was going to be a great conversation. So I really appreciate you just coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It was an honor.
Are there ways that people can follow you if anybody like sees this episode and they want to keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah. So if you want to email me, you can email Zack Phillips 2000 at gmail.com. I'll give you my phone number if you email me and ask for it. Uh,
There you go.
uh,
There you go.
and then, yeah, social media, Instagram, Zack Phillips, to no, Zack Phillips CSCS at whatever Instagram. But ZACK is how I spell my name. So Zack Phillips
Yeah,
2000,
Zach with a K.
Zack Phillips CSCS is my Instagram.
Okay, great.
And yeah,
Well,
I'm
again,
not, just for the folks at home, I'm happy to talk about training anytime you guys want to talk about training. Hit me up. Yeah, love talking about training. Love to hear how other people are doing it, and not really doing any private training so much right now. But if that's something that you're interested in, we can talk about it, and if it works out, maybe we can do it.
do you do? I mean, like if somebody was like out of state or something, would you do like remote like programming and training, or would you want to do it work with
I
people in person?
I do that a little bit, but it's usually with people that I've already kind of got a relationship with, and
Yeah.
where we've been working together in person for a while, and then I do that. So yeah, I do have clients that I work with online, but I don't really love it.
Yeah,
For the
I'm the
the
same way.
reasons like we talked about earlier. I'm like, I spent so long on this program and sent it to you, and you're not even doing it. You missed like a whole week of training. Like, it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
I've also found that there's another piece of like I really geek out. I like watching the movement. I actually like watching the process and like I designed this, but like what does it actually look like in person? And I like look at how the foot landed and like
Mhm.
where I look at all that stuff and I like you said I just don't enjoy knowing you're off somewhere doing it on your own and I don't even get to see it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you get
So
the message on there. What is this working, or what is this doing for me?
yeah, get
So
a lot of that.
frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, man. Okay, well I won't hold you up. Thanks again. And yeah, if anyone, hopefully people will reach out to you for your expertise.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Hit me up when you're back in town. Or come by the gym.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All
All
right,
right, man. Have a good one.
take care, brother. Bye.